The unthinkable order. In a distant corner of the galaxy, where human settlements had expanded to new and unknown worlds, a new order was given. The Galactic Empire, the most powerful force in the galaxy, had spoken. Humans, after years of growth and progress, were finally being told something they never expected. No warships. The Empire had decided that humanity, despite its many victories and innovations, was not ready for such power. Captain Zara, a seasoned military leader, paced back and forth in her dimly lit command room. She couldn't believe the words she had just read. No warships. Her fingers gripped the edges of the data pad as the weight of the message hit her. She had fought in dozens of battles, faced countless dangers, and helped lead humanity's fleets to victory. But now, the Empire's Council, made up of the galaxy's most powerful beings, had decided that humans could no longer build warships, ships that could protect their colonies and defend their homes. The decision felt wrong. The Empire had always underestimated humans. For centuries, they had been treated like children, like lesser beings, never trusted with the same military power as other species. Zara, like many others, had grown tired of this. Humans had fought beside the strongest factions in the galaxy and had proven time and time again that they could hold their own. But now, they were being told they were unworthy of warships. The very idea was insulting. As Zara's mind raced, she thought of her people, the brave men and women who had stood alongside her in battle, fighting to protect their families, their homes, and their future. She thought of the many times they had won against impossible odds, against forces much stronger than their own. She remembered how, against the advice of the Empire, they had pioneered new technologies, built colonies on hostile planets, and expanded their reach far beyond what anyone had imagined. But the Empire still saw them as weak. Zara had always known that the Empire feared humanity's potential. Their rise in the galaxy had been too fast, too unexpected. But now, this new order wasn't just a setback. It was an insult. It felt like a slap to the face. Suddenly, the door to her command room opened, and her trusted advisor, Lieutenant Rax, stepped in. His face was serious, his expression grim. Zara didn't need to ask what had happened. Rax was holding a similar datapad, one that showed the same order she had just read. He walked toward her and, without a word, handed it over. "They've made their decision," Zara muttered, glancing at the message again. "The Empire says we can't build warships." Rax nodded, his expression darkening. "I can't believe it. After everything we've done, after all the battles we've won, they think we're still not ready." Zara slammed the datapad down onto the table, her anger rising. "It's not about being ready. It's about control. They're afraid of us. They know that if we build warships, we'll have the power to break free, to fight back against their rule. And that's exactly what we're going to do." Rax looked at her, his eyes wide. "You're serious, aren't you?" Zara stood up and paced around the room. "We've always been serious about our freedom. Rax, the Empire won't give us the chance to defend ourselves, so we'll build the warships ourselves. We'll show them that they can't control us, not anymore. They've underestimated us for far too long." Rax took a deep breath. "You're not planning something reckless, are you? We've fought hard to get where we are, Zara. If we go against the Empire, there's no turning back." "I know," Zara replied, her voice steady but filled with determination. "But we don't have a choice. If we don't act now, we'll be vulnerable forever. We've come too far to back down now." Zara's mind was made up. The order from the Empire had only fueled her resolve. She knew that building warships in secret would be dangerous, but she also knew it was the only way to ensure humanity's future. The rebellion had to begin here, and it had to start now. Her eyes narrowed as she turned to face Rax. "Gather the team. I need the best engineers, the best soldiers, and the smartest minds we have. We're going to build the most powerful warships the galaxy has ever seen, and we're going to do it in secret. The Empire won't know what hit them." Rax didn't hesitate. "I'll start right away." As he left, Zara stood alone in the room, staring out the window at the stars. The Empire had made a mistake. They had thought that by denying humans the right to build warships, they could control them. But Zara knew better. It wasn't the Empire's control that humanity would ever submit to. It was their own will, their desire for freedom. And now, it was time to make their stand. The plan had begun. The warships would be built, and no one could stop them. The secret plan. Captain Zara stood at the center of a darkened room, the walls lined with digital displays, schematics and blueprints for warships that were only a dream in the eyes of the Empire. The rebellion had officially begun. The task ahead was enormous, but Zara had no doubts about the strength of the team she was about to assemble. In the corner of the room stood Rax, watching her carefully as she reviewed the plans. "We can't make any mistakes," Zara said quietly, her voice a mix of determination and caution. "One slip-up, and the Empire will find out. And when they do, we won't just be fighting for warships. We'll be fighting for our lives." "I know," Rax replied, "but we're not the first to face impossible odds. We can do this, Zara. You've got the best minds on your side." Zara nodded. She had already chosen the core members of her team. They were the best humanity had to offer: engineers, soldiers, and technicians who had all been through the harshest battles the galaxy had ever seen. They were loyal to her cause, and most importantly, they understood the stakes. If they failed, humanity would be powerless. Her first choice was Kira, a former weapons engineer with a reputation for designing cutting-edge technology that had turned the tide of many battles. She was the kind of mind Zara needed to make the warships a reality. Kira had a sharp, calculating mind and a thirst for innovation that had earned her both respect and fear in the Empire's military ranks. Next was Orin, a former soldier who had served in the Empire's special forces. He was tough, resourceful, and a master strategist. His job was going to be one of the most difficult, keeping the operation secret. He would coordinate the teams, ensuring that they worked in the shadows, far from the Empire's watchful eyes. And then there was Jax, a brilliant tech genius who had a gift for hacking into enemy systems. His skills were crucial for breaking through the Empire's security, and more importantly, for setting up the covert communications network that the team would need to stay in contact. Jax could disable surveillance systems, hack into military databases, and even infiltrate enemy ships without leaving a trace. "Are they all ready?" Rax asked. "They are," Zara replied, eyes focused on the plan. "But it's not just about building warships. It's about sending a message. The Empire has kept us down for too long. They think they can control us by forbidding us from what we need to protect ourselves. But we'll show them. We'll build the warships in secret, and when the time comes, we'll strike." The team gathered at an undisclosed location, a hidden facility built deep within an uncharted asteroid field. The base was a perfect place to start their operation, remote, isolated, and beyond the Empire's surveillance network. Zara had spent weeks securing the location, and now it was time to bring everyone together. Kira was the first to speak as she entered the control room. "I've reviewed the plans you gave me. The designs are solid, but we'll need resources: metal, energy cells, weaponry. We can't just build a warship out of thin air." Zara nodded. "I know. We've already arranged for the supplies. We'll have what we need, and we'll get it in secret. The Empire won't know what hit them." Orin stepped forward. "The hardest part will be keeping this operation under the radar. We're talking about building warships, not just a few blasters. The Empire will notice if we start sending out large shipments of materials. I'll have to make sure the supply runs are discreet." "Make it happen," Zara said. "We don't have time to waste." Jax, who had been silently working at his station, spoke up. "I've already started working on our communications network. We'll be able to stay in contact without anyone tracking us. It's going to be tight, but it's doable." Zora glanced around at her team. They were ready. They were committed. But she knew that the hardest part was yet to come. Building the warships would be just the beginning. The real challenge would be keeping everything a secret long enough to get them into action. "We're not just building warships," Zara said, her voice growing stronger. "We're building our future. And if the Empire thinks they can stop us, they'll soon learn how wrong they are." The team exchanged looks of determination, each one understanding the gravity of their task. They were more than just rebels. They were the hope of humanity. Over the next few weeks, they worked tirelessly. The facility was abuzz with activity as the engineers and soldiers went to work. Zara spent her days overseeing the operation, ensuring that everything went smoothly. At night, she would sit alone in her office, looking out at the stars. The mission was risky, but it was the only way forward. They kept their movements small and quiet, running supply missions under the radar and using hidden channels to communicate. They had to be smart, careful, and patient. Zara knew that the Empire's forces were vast and powerful. If they made even one mistake, the entire operation would be at risk. But she had no doubt they would succeed. As the days passed, the first pieces of the warship began to take shape. Zara couldn't help but feel a sense of pride as she looked at the hull of the ship taking form. It was real. The rebellion was real. The warships were the first test. The time had come. The first warship was nearly complete. Captain Zara stood before the massive hull of the ship, watching as the finishing touches were applied. The sleek lines of the vessel shimmered under the facility's lights, a symbol of humanity's defiance and determination. It wasn't just a ship. It was a statement, a warning to anyone who doubted the power of humans. But this was only the beginning. Before they could celebrate, Zara knew they had to put the warship through its first test. The plan was simple but risky. They would send the warship on a covert mission to disable one of the Empire's surveillance stations hidden on a remote moon. It would be a difficult operation, and any failure could lead to the discovery of their hidden base. "We're ready," Kira said as she walked up to Zara, looking over the ship with admiration. "The systems are running smoothly. If we pull this off, we'll have the firepower to take on anything the Empire throws at us." Zara nodded but didn't allow herself to feel too confident. It's not just about firepower. This mission is about making sure the warship is operational in combat. If something goes wrong, we'll have to deal with the consequences. There's no room for failure. Orin, who had been studying the mission details on his datapad, looked up with a concerned expression. "We'll have to move quickly. The Empire's ships regularly patrol that sector. If they detect the warship before we get to the station, it's game over." "We'll keep it under the radar," Zara said firmly. "Jax, can we hack into their surveillance network and disable their systems long enough for us to slip through?" Jax, who had been busy preparing the ship's tech for the mission, looked up from his workstation. "I've already got a plan in place. The station's communications are outdated, which means it's vulnerable. I can scramble their signals for a few minutes, just enough to get us close, but we can't stay in the area for too long. Once the systems reboot, they'll know we're there." Zara studied Jax's face. "Do it, and make sure we're ready to leave the moment the mission is complete." As the team gathered around the warship's command center, Zara took one last look at the crew. There was a quiet tension in the air, a sense that this mission would set the tone for everything that followed. They weren't just testing a ship, they were testing their resolve, their ability to survive against the odds. "I'll be in the control room," Zara said, her voice steady but determined. "I want full communication throughout the mission. If anything goes wrong, we need to adapt quickly." The warship's engines roared to life as the crew prepared for departure. Outside the facility, a small fleet of ships moved into position, ready to support the mission if necessary. Zara's heart pounded in her chest as the ship took off into the cold, silent void of space. The mission was underway. As the warship approached the moon, Jax activated the jamming signal. The Empire's surveillance systems flickered and went dark, just as planned. The team held their breath as the ship silently glided closer to the station, its massive guns ready to fire. The Empire had no idea they were coming. But just as they neared the station, something unexpected happened. A small fleet of Empire ships appeared on the horizon. They had been hiding in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Zara's heart raced as she quickly analyzed the situation. We didn't account for this. The mission had just become far more dangerous. Orin's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, we've got a problem. They're surrounding us. We need to break through their formation, or they'll catch us." Zara's mind worked in overdrive as she calculated their options. There was no time to waste. "Jax, can you disable their communication systems? We can't let them coordinate." "I'm on it," Jax responded, his fingers flying over the controls. "I'll send a wave through their systems and lock them out." The warship's weapon systems powered up as Zara barked orders to her crew. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We can't fight them all, but we can make it out if we stay mobile." The first shots from the enemy fleet rang out, missing the warship by mere inches. Zara gritted her teeth as the ship swerved to avoid another blast. The battle had begun. Orin was already on the move, guiding the ship through the narrow gaps between asteroids and debris. Zara could hear the stress in his voice as he pushed the ship to its limits. "This isn't going to be easy. We need a way to turn the tables. Now." Zara's mind raced. They couldn't fight a fleet of Empire ships head-on. Not yet. But they had one advantage. The warship was faster and more agile than anything the Empire had. If they could outmaneuver their enemies, they might just escape. "Jax," Zara called out, "can you give us a boost? We need to outpace them." Jax's voice was tense. "I've rerouted power to the engines. We're going to burn through this sector like a comet." With a sudden surge of power, the warship shot forward, blasting past the enemy ships at incredible speed. The Empire's fleet scrambled to keep up, but Zara's team had already made their move. "We've cleared them," Orin shouted, his voice filled with triumph. The warship had broken free from the Empire's grasp and was heading toward the station. Zara breathed a sigh of relief, but the mission wasn't over yet. "Jax, finish the job. Disable the station's power grid. We're in and out. No delays." Jax quickly manipulated the systems, sending a pulse of energy that disabled the station's defenses. With the mission complete, Zara ordered the crew to return to base. They had done it. Against all odds, they had survived their first test. The warship had passed the trial, but the true battle was just beginning. Now they had to prepare for the consequences of what they had done. The Empire would surely respond, but Zara was ready. This was only the beginning of their rebellion. The betrayal. The success of their first mission brought a wave of confidence to Zara and her team. They had done the impossible, sneaked past the Empire's forces, disabled their surveillance station, and completed the mission without detection. The warship was proving its worth, and Zara knew this was just the beginning. They had tested their strength and emerged victorious. But little did they know, this victory would soon be overshadowed by an unexpected twist. The rebellion's base was nestled deep within the asteroid field, away from prying eyes. The team had settled into a routine, working day and night to prepare for the next phase of their operation. The warship was being upgraded, and plans were already in place for their next strike against the Empire. But Zara could feel something wasn't quite right. The tension in the air had shifted. The usual sense of unity had begun to feel off. It started with the smallest of things, strange looks exchanged between certain members of the crew, the sound of hushed conversations in hallways late at night. Zara had always prided herself on knowing her team, on understanding them, but recently she sensed a disconnect. Something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Then, the moment came. Late one evening, while Zara was in the command center, reviewing the next mission's details, a signal flashed across her terminal. It was a distress call, coming from one of the outer rings of the base. Without hesitation, Zara pressed a button to open the communication line. "Captain Zara." The voice on the other end was shaky, almost panicked. "We've got an intruder. They're in the supply room. And it's someone from the team." Zara's heart skipped a beat. "Who? What do you mean, an intruder?" The voice crackled with tension. "It's Kira. She's accessing restricted files. She's been working alone in the lab for hours, and now she's transmitting something. We think she's sending data to the Empire." Zara's blood ran cold. Kira, the one person she had trusted most with the warship's technology and designs. Zara's mind raced. It couldn't be true. There had to be some mistake, but the evidence was undeniable. The betrayal had happened, and it was right under her nose. Without wasting a second, Zara stormed out of the command center and rushed down the narrow corridors of the base. Her boots echoed in the silent halls as she made her way toward the lab. The closer she got, the more her heart hammered in her chest. How could this happen? When she reached the lab, the door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open cautiously, her breath catching in her throat. Kira was standing at the terminal, her back to Zara, her fingers moving rapidly across the console. She didn't even seem to notice Zara's presence at first. "Kira," Zara called out, her voice steady but filled with disbelief. "What are you doing?" Kira froze. Her shoulders tensed as if caught in a trap. Slowly, she turned around, her face pale and drawn. I'm sorry, Zara. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." Zara's mind was reeling. "You didn't mean for me to find out. You're sending data to the Empire. Why? Why would you betray us?" Kira's eyes filled with guilt, but there was also something else. Fear. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I was just trying to survive. The Empire, they offered me a way out, a chance to save my family. They promised me protection if I gave them the warship designs. I didn't want to, but they pressured me. Zara's anger flared, but she held it back. This was a moment for answers, not rage. "How long have you been working for them? How long have you been feeding them information?" Kira's voice trembled as she spoke. "Since the beginning. I never thought it would go this far, Zara. I swear, I thought I could just get the designs to them and stop. But now they're expecting more. They want the warship. They want the fleet we're building." Zara could barely hold back her shock and fury. All this time, the one person I trusted with the future of the rebellion had been secretly working with the enemy. It didn't make sense. Kira had been one of the brightest minds, one of the most dedicated. How had she been so easily swayed? "I'm sorry," Kira whispered, her eyes now filled with tears. "I thought I could keep it under control. But now they know. They're coming for us. They won't stop until they have everything." Zara's jaw clenched. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound she had ever received. "You've put us all at risk, Kira. The Empire will know exactly where we are now. You've doomed us." There was silence between them, the weight of Kira's actions hanging heavily in the room. Zara had to make a decision. She could let Kira go, perhaps use her as an informant, but the trust was gone. The damage had been done. Zara knew that if they were to survive, Kira couldn't be part of the rebellion anymore. "Leave," Zara said coldly. "Get out of here. You're no longer part of this team." Kira nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. She didn't fight. She knew it was over. As Zara watched Kira leave, a sense of betrayal filled her. This was the reality of rebellion, the cost of trusting the wrong person. But Zara had no time to dwell on it. The Empire would soon come, and they would be ready. "Orin," Zora called over the comms, her voice steady now. "Get the team to high alert. We have a breach. The Empire is coming. Prepare for the worst." The rebellion had just suffered its first great blow, but Zara was resolute. They would survive this. They had to. Because if they didn't, Kira's betrayal would be the end of humanity's fight for freedom. And Zara wasn't about to let that happen. Revolution begins. The betrayal had cut deep, But there was no time to dwell on it. The Empire knew their location now. It wouldn't be long before they sent a fleet to wipe them out. Zara's mind was sharp, her focus unwavering. She stood in the command center, her hand steady on the console, while the rest of the team scrambled to prepare for the incoming storm. There was no more room for hesitation or doubt. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the start of the revolution. "Orin," Zara called out, her voice strong and clear. "Get the warship ready. We leave immediately." Orin's voice came over the comms, crisp and urgent. "We've already begun the pre-launch sequence, Captain. But we need to move fast. The Empire is mobilizing. I've detected their fleet approaching." Zara's eyes narrowed. The fleet was closer than they had anticipated. They didn't have the luxury of waiting any longer. They needed to strike first and strike hard. She turned to the team, their faces grim but determined. "Kira's betrayal doesn't change our mission," Zara said, her voice steady but filled with the weight of leadership. "We will show the Empire that humanity won't bow down. We have the power to take control of our destiny. This is our fight, and we will win it." Rax, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. "We've been preparing for this moment since the beginning, Zara. If we want to stand a chance, we need to hit them where it hurts. Take out their supply lines, cripple their fleets, and show them that we're not just a bunch of colonies to be ignored." Zara nodded. "Exactly. Jax, can you take out their communications? We need to hit them hard and fast without them being able to respond." Jax, his fingers already flying over his console, spoke up. "Already on it. I'll disable their fleet's long-range comms. That'll give us a window to strike before they can regroup." "Good," Zara said. "We'll move in 2 phases. First, we'll hit their supply depot on Sirith 7. After that, we'll break their fleet apart with hit-and-run tactics. We're not trying to take on their entire force head-on. We'll make them come to us and play by our rules." The crew went to work, preparing for the attack. Zara moved to the command center of the warship, her eyes scanning the tactical map. The fight wasn't going to be easy, but she had every confidence in her team. The warship, now fully equipped with the latest tech, was ready. The crew was ready. The rebellion was ready. As the warship launched into space, the dark void stretched ahead of them. The stars twinkled like distant promises, and Zara knew this would be the turning point. There would be no going back. They had already crossed the line. The first shot had been fired, and they were on their way to bring down the Empire. "We've entered the system," Orin reported as the warship cruised through the asteroid belt surrounding Sirith 7. "Target locked. Moving into position." Zara's eyes remained focused on the screens in front of her. "Jax, are their communications down?" "Now," Jax said, his voice calm but intense. "They won't be able to reach each other. They won't know what hit them." Zara smiled grimly. "Let's make sure they don't see it coming." With a sharp command, Zara initiated the attack. The warship's weapon systems came alive, launching precise, devastating strikes against the Empire's supply depot on the planet below. The explosions rocked the surface, sending shockwaves through the nearby atmosphere. The Empire would have no way to replenish their forces now. As Zara watched the destruction unfold on the screens, a sense of power washed over her. The Empire had made a fatal mistake in underestimating humanity. They thought they could control them, but Zara knew better. This was just the beginning. Orin's voice broke through the silence. "The fleet's moving in. They've detected the attack." Zara's eyes flicked to the tactical map. A large Imperial fleet had entered the system, but they were disorganized and struggling to coordinate. The communications blackout Jax had set in place had disrupted their ability to respond effectively. The fleet was in chaos. "Perfect," Zara muttered, grinning. "Prepare for Phase 2. Hit and run. We break their fleet apart before they can regroup." The warship moved swiftly, evading the Empire's retaliatory fire with sharp, calculated maneuvers. It wasn't a fair fight. The Empire's ships, despite their size and firepower, couldn't match the agility and advanced technology of Zora's warship. They fired on the warship, but Zora was always one step ahead. With every blast fired by the Empire, Zora's team launched counterattacks, hitting their targets and retreating before the enemy could recover. For hours, they kept the Empire on the defensive. Every time the enemy thought they had the warship in their sights, it vanished into the asteroid fields, reappearing at a different angle to strike again. Zora's tactics were working. The Empire's fleet was falling apart, and they had no idea how to stop it. "We've done it," Orin said after what felt like an eternity. "Their fleet's in disarray. They're pulling back." Zora leaned back in her seat, exhaling deeply. They had won this round, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would retaliate, and they would come in full force. But now, they had something the Empire could never take away: hope. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with, and there was no turning back. "We've just taken our first step, but there's a long road ahead," Zora said, her voice steady. "We've lit the spark. Now we need to keep the fire burning. The revolution has begun, and it won't stop until humanity is free." Her crew nodded in agreement. The war was far from over, but the victory today had proven one thing: humanity was not weak. They were ready to fight for their freedom, no matter the cost. And the Empire would soon learn that when humans defied orders, they didn't just build warships. They changed the galaxy forever. The ultimate victory. The battle had been fierce, and the victory bittersweet, but Captain Zora knew this was only the beginning. The Empire had underestimated humanity's strength, and today they had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. But as Zora stood at the command center, watching the remnants of the Empire's shattered fleet retreat, she understood that the real challenge was just beginning. The war was far from over. The Empire would not give up so easily, and neither would they. Zora's mind was already turning to the next phase of the fight. They had struck a blow against the Empire, but it was only a single strike in a war that would determine the fate of all humanity. "Status update," Zora ordered, her voice calm but commanding. She needed to know where they stood. Orin, sitting at the tactical console, spoke up. "The fleet's in retreat, Captain. They've taken significant losses, but we have to assume they'll regroup quickly. They'll want revenge, and they'll come back stronger." Zora nodded, understanding the reality of the situation. They couldn't afford to sit back and rest on their laurels. The war had only just begun. They needed to act fast, keep the momentum, and ensure that the Empire couldn't regroup or rebuild their forces. "We need to expand our reach," Zora said, her eyes focused on the stars outside. "We've proven we can stand against the Empire, but now we need allies. We can't do this alone." Rax, who had been listening intently, spoke up. "There are planets sympathetic to our cause, Captain, but we need to make contact with them. The Empire controls the galaxy's communication systems, and we've been operating in the shadows so far. It's time to make our move openly, show the galaxy that we're a force they can't ignore." Zora turned to Jax, who had been busy with communications. "Can we hack into their public channels? Spread the message that we are still here, and we're fighting back." Jax looked up from his station. "I've already started working on it. I can broadcast across the galaxy. We'll show the Empire that humanity isn't afraid anymore. We'll send a message loud and clear." Zora smiled, a spark of determination in her eyes. "Then let's do it. This is the beginning of a new era. The galaxy will know who we are, and they'll know we won't stop until humanity is free." With the warship still in the lead, Zora's crew began coordinating their next moves. They knew that while the Empire was weakened, they still had vast resources and power. But the rebellion had something more valuable: unity, determination, and a cause that was just. They couldn't afford to waste this opportunity. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, messages began to spread. The broadcast from Zora's team shattered the Empire's grip on the galaxy's communications, sending a message of rebellion and defiance. It was a message of hope. The people of the galaxy heard it, and for the first time in years, they saw a glimmer of hope. On remote planets, in hidden stations, and in the crowded streets of galaxy-spanning cities, people began to whisper about the warships humanity had built. They began to hear the stories of how humans had defied the Empire, fought back, and proven their strength. The stories spread like wildfire. Those who had been too afraid to stand up before now found the courage to do so. A rebellion was born in the hearts of millions, and Zara's name became a symbol of defiance against the Empire's tyranny. The galaxy was on the brink of a revolution, and humanity was at the center of it. Zara's small rebellion had ignited something bigger than any of them had anticipated. But even as Zara and her team celebrated their victory, the Empire was not done. Their retaliation came swiftly. They sent a massive fleet, far larger than anything Zara's rebellion had faced before. The Empire had learned from their mistakes, and now they were determined to crush humanity once and for all. But Zara was ready. The battle that ensued was the largest the galaxy had ever seen. It was a battle not just for survival, but for the future of humanity itself. Zara led her forces with the same determination and tactical genius that had gotten them this far. The warship, now fully equipped with the best technology humanity had to offer, proved to be a formidable force. But the odds were still stacked against them. The battle raged on for days. The Empire's fleet was vast, but humanity's warships, built with ingenuity and courage, fought back with everything they had. Zara and her team knew that this was the final stand, the last chance to secure humanity's freedom. In the end, it was the humans' ingenuity, their relentless spirit, and their will to survive that won the day. The Empire's fleet, overwhelmed by the sheer willpower of the rebellion, began to falter. The warships, once considered impossible, now turned the tide of battle in favor of humanity. Zara stood at the helm of the warship, watching as the last remnants of the Empire's fleet retreated into the distance. Victory had been achieved, but at a great cost. The galaxy would never be the same again. "We did it," Orin said, his voice filled with awe. Zara stood tall, her heart heavy with the weight of the sacrifices made. "No, we didn't just win. We changed the galaxy. And we won't stop here." With the Empire in retreat and the galaxy awakening to the new era of freedom, Zara knew that their fight had only just begun. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never forget the day humanity defied the odds and built warships, and in doing so, built a future of their own. Humanity had risen, and their ultimate victory had just begun.